Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio. We are radio for the ready-minded. How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Fantastic and great. We're streamed live wherever you are. We are recorded wherever we are. And we're grateful that you're here. We're happy to help. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by us, but sponsored by Jase Medical. If you haven't checked them out, we're going to be doing a podcast with them soon. Click the link below in the notes because you're going to get $10 off an order at Jase Medical, where you can get your antibiotics set up for a year. So you can have everything you need. Instead of having to go try to find the fish stuff or the horse stuff or something else stuff, get the human stuff for you stuff. They're a trusted medical provider. I love them. I've got my kit. Shane's got his kit. Paris has his kit. And I'm getting another kit for my wife, and they're coming out with some really cool stuff in the future. So tune in, pay attention, make sure you hit like and subscribe to all of our stuff so that you're notified every time we give you a new audio or video. Also, because the time's running short, check out in the links below, Fortress Clothing. You're going to get 20% off using the promo code PREPPER. This is only good till June 1st. So you better hurry and get this done now. Otherwise, prices are going to be higher. And hey, who knows, with inflation and everything else, prices are going to go up on everything in the next year. So make sure you're getting these things taken care of now. If you have the means, get it done. And today we're going to jump into the topic that's, I guess, a sexy topic in prepping. Everyone talks about it a lot, but nobody has a real good plan. Well, most people I talk to have a bad plan. And here's the typical bug out idea that I hear a lot. Hi, Bob. How's it going? Good, Scott. How are you doing? Doing great. How is your prepping going? Great. I've got a new bug out plan. Oh, really? What is your new bug out plan, Bob? Yeah, I got a backpack full of stuff, and I could probably get about 200 miles out of that. I'm just going to hike off into the mountains. Okay, Bob. And where are you going to die in the next 3 days? Because that's what's going to happen. Everybody that has this idea of I can just bug out without having a predetermined location, without having primary, secondary, and tertiary routes to that location, without having other resources at that location, what are you thinking? Like bugging out is a military term, and it means strategic relocation. We're pulling out of this location to get to the next location that has resources, that has additional people, that has everything that we don't have access to here anymore is going to be there. So when you're thinking bugging out, when you're thinking, where am I going to go next? Hurry and figure that out now before you have to bug out, so that you have everything in place, a plan in place, systems in place to take care of you when you get there. For example, I've got a friend, his name is going to be, let's just call him Knuckles today. And Knuckles has a pond with a stream that flows into the pond and a stream that flows out of the pond. He has about 15 acres and he lives in a semi-remote location. And Knuckles has a couple of goats. He's got chickens. I think he even has a couple turkeys at this point. But he has a huge garden and he has plenty of additional resources, including backup generators, solar collectors for his generators. And then he also has a very nice security system called Giant German Shepherds. And I think he has 3 or 4 of those now. So he's got a great bug out location, of which the 3 of us have been invited to. However, actually it's not 20 acres. I think it's 3 acres. I don't know where 20 came from. But if you don't have something like that to go to, where are you going to go? And if you don't have plans to get there, like that's one of the locations I can go to. I have another location that doesn't have as many resources right now because we haven't been able to set it up. So would I want to go there? Not necessarily. If I have to go somewhere, that's another option if plan A is gone. I also have a plan C, which actually should be before B. And that is, there's a location I have that's about 280 miles away that actually is stocked. And is I'm welcome there. Not everybody's welcome there, but I'm welcome there. And if I can get there, I have things that I can bring with me, and I have skills and I have abilities that will work with the group that's already there. You know, Shane, you've been working on your location. Paris, you're new to Utah, so you know everything's in kind of, what do I do mode. But when it comes to bugging out, like what are your philosophies? Because everyone's philosophy is a little different. What are your philosophies or strategies behind it? Or what do you think people need to be doing first before they jump to the conclusion, I'm building a bug out bag and I'm leaving town when crap hits the fan?
I'll raise my hand.
Go, Shane.
You
got a few things to say, I'm sure.
I do. And there are, I'm just looking out my window and seeing the creatures, whole bunch of baby cows running by, the cutest thing ever. Literally like 5 baby cows running down the field with each other.
Your anyway, dinner is hoofing it away, huh?
There's a big dinner right over there. But I think there's only 3 scenarios in when, if you really think about bugging out, right? First, like you said, Scott, bugging out is the strategic relocation prior to an event happening, right? I'm bugging out, I'm getting out of the city. And I think the first steps are first recognizing that where you are is not a ideal place for survival. When the grid goes down, if you lose water, you lose power. If the stores run out of food, you don't have enough land to plant any kind of crops there. You don't have a greenhouse. There's other things, potential things you can do for gardens with the neighborhoods and such. But living in a densely populated area where your neighbors aren't prepared, and you've got to get out at some point. The first step is to get out early. The second scenario is a bad one. Just like you say, I'm getting out. I've got a backpack. Maybe I have my car still running. I'm gonna throw everything in my car and just go to a place that I usually camp, right? It's gotten bad. The crime has increased. There's a reason to get out. There's a volcano. There's an earthquake that destroys your house. But at that point, you're a refugee. The third one is essentially, you're a refugee, right? Maybe your home has been destroyed. You have no place to live. And you don't have a place nearby. You don't have family nearby. You've got to bug out. You've got to find a new place. And that's when you're a refugee and you're throwing caution to the wind. You know what the heck you're doing. You're just trying to carry everything you can with you, and it ain't going to fit in a backpack.
Yeah, I think like a lot of times people don't think of like, okay, there's an evacuation where I need to evacuate because of potential fire damage or a flood or something coming, like immediate danger. You will bug out, right? You might be bugging out to a hotel. You might be bugging out to a family member's house, right? Those need to be pre-planned. You need to figure out where you're going to go, because if it's a huge evacuation, a lot of people are going to probably go to the same hotel that you're thinking of going to. Mm-hmm. So living options are going to be greatly reduced, but then also it creates a dependency issue on where are we going to get the resources we need and everything we want to get through this.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest things that I would always do when I was in California. I would, as a member of my church community, I was one of the guys who was in charge of helping people get prepared for things. And you got to figure out what's going on in your area. Is your area a flood zone? Is your area a fire zone? Is your area an earthquake zone? Like, what's in your area? And I was of the opinion, honestly, I didn't really understand bugging out until I got in with you guys, and it taught me some of the things that we're talking about today. Because to me, it was like, oh, cool, I have a backpack. It's got, at this point, I feel like it's got 100 pounds worth of stuff, but it needs to be much lighter. And I was like, sweet, I'm good to go. I'll survive whatever. And, when you have in the area where I lived in California, for those of you who remember, and it'll happen a little bit in a couple other states, but Texas has been flooding. But in California at the time, there was a lot of fires, and people needed to have something they could grab really quickly and just get and go so that they would be safe. And that's one form of bug out. But as I'm listening more and more to the stuff you're talking about and having a strategic relocation places, that, one of my favorite movies of all time is, and any prepper who doesn't have this is one of their top movies, and doesn't have to be number one, but just on the list, is the Red Dawn. And those dudes bugged out. They saw the invasion coming. They knew that they needed to get to a place of safety, and they took the gear they had, they put it all together, and they had a location. Some of them had a better location than others. Some of them had to build a location when they got there. But having that idea in your mind already, like, what today, if you had to leave today, where would you go?
Yeah. So the thing is, we talk about, we got to practice. So grab your bag and bug out. Just do it. Yep. And see how well it goes for you. Right. It's not going to go well. It might go for be fine for a couple of days, and then what?
Mm-hmm.
And make that your vacation. Like, make that like the weekend thing. We're going to go out for 5 days. Like, can I survive on just my bug out bag for 5 days? Can I survive on just what we can fit in the car for 5 days in our secondary location? If you don't practice that, how will you ever know? Like, I'm totally guilty of that right now with the kids. Like, I just haven't done that with the kids yet. My wife and I actually did that a couple times before the kids came, and we practiced, and we went to one of our locations. We're like, yeah, we need a lot more stuff here to make this really work. Mm-hmm. And put that location from first down to second, and then later down to third, so testing it out and seeing what can we really do there, what's feasible, what's possible. That's the key. And then testing and practicing and testing. Like, I've taken my bug out bag from 35, 40 pounds down to 25 pounds because I realized a lot of the stuff there is useless. When am I like, I carried a large saw, useless. A small saw is more than enough. In most cases, I can just take my fixed blade knife and chop through some small wood to create a temporary shelter for wherever I'm going. Mm-hmm. But I need a long-term solution whenever I get there. So if I don't already have tools there, trying to carry those tools there on my back, bad idea.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a guy I know who has a 75-pound bug out bag. And I sat down, I went through it with him. I'm like, you don't need this. You don't need this. You don't like, I went through everything and I told him, like, get rid of all these things. And I kid you not, he looked at me and he says, I need those. And I said, what do you need a 10-pound battery backup for on your backpack? And he's like, for my computer. I'm like, okay, where are you going? We're going into the woods. And how are you going to have Wi-Fi? How are you going to, why do you need a computer? He had his laptop in his bag and a 10-pound battery. I kid you not. And he was planning on taking that, bugging out. Well, movies for my kids. I'm like, your kid is 3. Play with them. Get them involved in like chopping wood, like gathering sticks and stuff, kindling, like get them involved. Like, there's other games. You don't need to watch movies all the time. And I'm still sick about it because he won't listen to the common sense. I'm like, go talk to 10 other preppers and let them have them look at your bag.
Yeah. And if you're bugging out by vehicle, I mean, that's one thing, right? You've got a trailer to load up and go somewhere. Mm-hmm. But then again, it takes a lot of planning, a lot of practice. You know what I'm doing, guys. I'm here at my bug out location, and truly, this is a bug out location. I'm in my RV. I've got some land. I've got a water source. I've got power. I'm building a Quonset hut shelter, which I'll have a wood stove in there. I'll have some cots in there. I'll have a bathroom in there, and greenhouse goes up next. And this is truly going to be a bug out location for me, but it's also going to be a vacation spot, right? Mm-hmm. The family can come here, the brothers and sisters, and just, have a good time. And it's located close to national forest, and we can go fishing. So it's a multi-purpose place, but it truly is a bug out location. But how long have I been working on this? Do you know, you guys know how long I've been working on this?
Years.
Since I've known you, that's all you talked about, but you didn't have the land until about a year ago. It's been so I've been in this process coming up on a year. Just the time to get the utilities in when we build the house, which won't be for another year at least. Mm-hmm. We're going to be camping out here, in any kind of emergency, but we've got the Quonset, the greenhouse, the trailer for camping in. It takes time, a lot of time, to put these resources together, to get the resources out here, get them staged, and even duplicates. So I can imagine my bug out bag working in this instance, in this one very small instance. My family I'm going to be kind of rough here. My family are all dead. It's just me. We had an EMP. I can't drive. Maybe I have my motorcycle. I can ride that for 100 miles till I run out of gas. And then I'm on foot with my backpack to get here where I have all of my stuff already. That's bugging out, I think, is the way most people think about it. And it's only going to work for me. I can't bring anybody else along with me because, maybe my son, maybe some other kids could make it walking with me 100 miles. But
it's not going to happen. So we're going to be bugging in at that point, right? We're not going anywhere. If everybody can't come out here at the same time, we're not going anywhere.
Well, that's the key is you understand, because you've tested things. You understand what's doable and what's not. And a lot of people have the idea that they can do this and they haven't practiced. They haven't tested. You know, to get to 2 of our locations, we have to have a car that's still operable and roads that are still passable.
And enough fuel to get there.
Well, fuel's pretty easy. We got that taken care of. It's just, will the car still be operable and will the roads still be passable?
Mm-hmm.
If we get hit with an earthquake, one location's gone. All we need in Utah for that location to be on to me is at least a 7.5 magnitude along that fault line, because that fault line is right in the way. And actually will eliminate possibly 2 locations for me. There is a back way to get to one of the other locations from where I live. But if the road is not passable, I mean, earthquakes, there could be fallen trees. I mean, it's a backwoods road, so there could be lots of fallen trees. I'll run out of chainsaw gas before I get to my location, most likely, clearing trees. So you have to have like a realistic view of where can I get and how.
So if you're truly committed to bugging out, do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out a way, get out now, and strategically relocate to that place where you want to be when it hits the fan. That's, in my opinion, truly the only realistic. And I don't know how realistic it is for a lot of people. People, you know, I still have to work. I can't leave my job just yet, right? I got to work in town, and that's a couple hours away from here. And I do have the ability to come out here and work remotely for a day or 2 a week. But other than that, I got to visit clients. You know, I got to be in my vehicle in person, you know, in the cities. So we are working on that plan. And, you know, part of the last episode we talked about precious metals, and that is also part of my ability to strategically relocate at some point, right? Having that financial freedom to be able to do that. So it's a very big moving target.
Yeah, I bought.
And my big thing for me and my family is really shelter in place or bug in. Like, I live in a place now where the biggest challenge we're going to have isn't going to be the marauders. It's going to be fires, and it's going to be water shortage. Those are my 2 biggest challenges staying here long term. The benefit of my location long term is it's not easily hikeable for most people to get up to my house. I mean, yeah, there's roads, but a lot of people, even in the winter, a lot of people park their cars at the bottom of the hill because they can't get up the hill, you know, and they won't walk up the hill. They'll go somewhere else. Like, it's crazy. But I have so many like-minded people on my street and in my neighborhood that it's a very unique place, first of all. And I didn't know that about my community when I moved here, but I'm so glad it is, because that made sheltering in place a larger option for my family. And especially with young kids, bugging out is a bad idea. Terrible idea.
A few years ago, I bought a trailer to go with my car. So, and I thankfully had a tow hitch and everything already in the car that I bought. So if that's a big deal when it comes to bugging out, is being able to have enough space to carry what you're talking about. And that's one of many scenarios to bug out. Is your house is burning down and you got to grab and go. That's one. That's kind of where your backpack is all you got. That's all you get. You have 30 seconds to decide what to grab to go. But if you've got 3 or 4 hours, because you know something's coming, or you can plan for it. I can pack my car. I can pack my trailer. I got my sleeping bags, my tents, my ground covers. I've got my stoves. I've got my propane. I've got sufficient stuff that I could actually even drive up the canyon here where I live now. And that was one of the first things we did when we moved here. We drove up the canyon and we looked for different camping spots and camping places, which I know will probably the traditional easy to get to ones are going to be overrun if there's a big communal, reason to bug out. But we have a place where we could go if the city itself or the town I'm in right now has a problem. We can go up the valley, up the canyon, and we can just camp there, even if it's for a day or two till we regroup. And then we can go on to another place after we regroup and we get some information about, okay, what's safe, what roads are safe, is the next leg of the trip still viable, is it still travelable? And those are some things that you should have as well. Not just have, like, you have a plan to go 280 miles away, but you also, I'm sure you realize that you need to have maybe a place that's 50 and 100 and then 150. And then every 25 to 50 miles, you ought to have some kind of a rest stop or a place where you can kind of pitch a tent and stay overnight if you need to on your way to the ultimate bug out location. Is that fair to say, is having a good plan like that where you have multiple locations?
A lot of people will have that plan and then they'll have all these like buried caches along the way. One of the biggest problems with that is you're burying your property on somebody else's property.
Mm-hmm.
So if they come across it, guess who owns it now? Anybody who comes across it. So that might not be there when you come back for it. The other problem is some people think I can bug out and go live in the country, and the people that live there may or may not want you there. Like, you can't just assume I can go to tiny town USA and just move in with the locals and they'll be all happy about it, because now they're going to be like, hey, we already have limited resources. Who are you? Keep walking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best thing to do is to really get a better picture of this is don't just like watch movies, dystopian movies, read some dystopian books. There's a really, really good dystopian book that it's not a dystopian book, but it goes through a dystopian situation. There's this group that live in this other group's city, country, and they're there, and the other group doesn't want them there anymore. So then they make them slaves. And so for them to be like, have a better life, eventually they are let out of that city and they bug out, and they bug out with only the stuff they can carry. Thankfully, they were led by a prophet of God named Moses, who took them to the Red Sea, and by the power of God opened the Red Sea, and they crossed the Red Sea. And their marauders, the Egyptians that were coming after them, were buried in the Red Sea. But the children of Israel were not welcomed anywhere they went. There was a lot of them, and everywhere they went, they were not welcomed. They ran out of food. What happened? They received manna. But if they tried to take too much manna, it would go bad. If they didn't take enough, they would be hungry. And God made so many conditions for them to get to his place of safety. And then when they broke the conditions, he said, fine, you're going to stay in the wilderness for another 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that for my family. So when it comes to bugging out, the reality check is go look from historical situations, what people have had to do to survive. Maybe go read some books. A lot of the good authors that are out there that have written dystopian books have written some really good books. And I love Angry American. He writes some really good stuff. His Going Home series is one of my favorites. But when you really think about preparedness, if you're not taking into consideration spiritual preparedness and mindset, you're up the creek without a paddle. Like, you're already starting disadvantaged. If you focus on God-centered and faith-centered preparedness, you're going to have a better opportunity to survive whatever's coming. Everything that's coming is biblical. It's been prophesied. We're promised it's going to get real bad. But we're also promised that the believers, those who are faithful to Jesus Christ, those who are faithful to God, they can be preserved through this.
Yeah, so I always say, look to the past to prepare for the future, right? And that obviously a big part of that is scripture, right? Is looking back into the scriptures. There's plenty of and it's history. It's not just scripture, it's history of actual events that have happened, and how we can use that to better prepare moving forward. Yes, having the right inspiration to know where to go. My ability to get this place was, as you guys know, it was nothing but blessings. I couldn't have done this myself without being blessed. And it's because it's been a focus of mine. It's something I want to do. And I believe if you, in the power of prayer, that actually is what made this happen for me and my family. It's a lot of hard work. I'm up here every single week, 2-3 days a week, working on this property. It's a lot of hard work, but man, I love it. Again, looking to the past, prepare for the future also relates to our more immediate ancestors, right? Looking back to how my grandparents lived and my great grandparents lived, the rural areas they lived in. And I think that's a great plan as well. Hopefully you have some relatives in a rural town, right? get to know them. If you don't already know them, well, get to know them, and then you got a potential bug out spot, right?
Keep bringing them delicious jams and jellies and treats so that they know that you're valuable to them.
And that's exactly what I say is when some of my family say, hey, we'll come to your place. And I say, okay, as long as you bring your year's supply of food with you, you can come to my place.
Yep.
And then it causes them to think like, maybe I should get more serious about getting my year's supply. Because if my own brother won't let me come unless I have, I mean, they're going to be a drain on our resources if they don't, right? And it's only going to compromise my own family.
Well, I think that's a really good price of admission.
Mm-hmm.
Price of admission. Yes, you can come. Absolutely. I'm going to start using that. Yes, you can come. The price of admission is a year's supply of food. Bring that with you.
Add to the resources. Don't deplete.
Yeah,
exactly, for your whole family.
And I think that is probably the best thing I can point back to for preparedness, for bugging out, like the whole topic. If you're going to try to go somewhere else, you better have resources to benefit that somewhere else.
Yeah. I think another big thing too is as you're traveling, and you alluded to it, Scott, with your discussion about going into areas where people will already be, and they may not want to have you there. If you have the ability to discern, and that discernment can come from God, he can prompt you, inspire you, impress upon you, however you get communications from God. If you're walking into an area and you feel an uneasy feeling, and you know those guys are probably not going to be the ones you should camp with. If you walk into an area and you feel good and you're like, ooh, these guys are good, they're kind, they're loving, and you got to be careful when you're out when everybody's bugging out. It can be really selfish really quickly, and people who would typically be good, maybe Christian valued people, might turn on you because now they're in a pressure situation and it's a live or die, and you've got to really have that discernment. And that's something that's important too, as you're traveling, as you're going out to these locations. If you don't have as many resources as somebody else does, and you're going to be dependent upon the kindness and grace of others. And if you follow, one of the things that I just absolutely believe is that there will come a day when somebody who's not got enough, or who's doing their best or did their best, will not either knock on my door or knock on my tent when in my bug out location and say, hey, look, I did my best, but I ran out. Do you have anything extra for me? And I need to have a spiritual connection to be able to know if that person is trying to get me or trick me or do other things. But they also too need to have that. God may have sent them to me. They may have been praying, where should I go? Where can I go? And they look off into the distance and they see my bug out location. They see, which will probably be with Shane, because, I helped build the Quonset, and he promised me that because I helped build the Quonset, that could also be my new bug out, or one of my bug out locations. So
just bring your year's supply of food with you.
Right.
I was going to say that too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That trailer before you come, Paris.
Well, that better be full, man.
That's the thing, is if you're in a position where you're doing the right things and you're doing it with God as your primary leading and guiding force, you're going to be led to, or you're going to have people led to you that you can help and serve and really bless their lives, and have your own life blessed by it too. If you're careful, you got to be careful, and that discernment's critical.
Absolutely. It's a tough game to play. When it comes down to it, here's my advice for bugging out. Plan everything in advance. Practice everything in advance. Pray about what you're doing and if it's the right thing to do. Because my bug out locations don't matter if God tells me no. All the gear that I have isn't mine. All the food that I have isn't mine if God tells me to give it away. And I promise you that if you do what God's telling you to do, you're going to be in a better situation preparedness wise than you would be if you try to do it alone. You've got to accompany God in this preparedness journey. There's so many people that do, and there's so many people that don't. And what I'm finding is the people that do have a lot less fear. Prepping eliminates a lot of fear anyways. But when you couple that with faith, it will eliminate even more fear, because fear and faith do not coexist together.
Yep.
Yeah. The one thing that comes to my mind when you said that, Scott, is but if not, right? Because our plans don't always work out, right? Mm-hmm. I've got my plans. I think I know how it's going to work out. But if not, like you say, the Lord might have something else in mind. And that's, I definitely feel I've been guided to this location and blessed. But I also think the Lord can change plan, say, no, I want you to go somewhere else. So just like you're saying, Paris, is having that spirit of discernment with you, so you know really what you should be doing. And I'm totally prepared to say, to get to the point where like, well, you know what, the wind blew this structure down, it's destroyed, I got nowhere to be. Okay, what now? Yeah, that's a hard thing to put on a lot of time and money and sweat and tears into, and then everything changes.
Yeah, I had a buddy who asked me the other day. He said, "So, what are you going to do? Are you going to get a bunch of gold for the collapse? Or are you going to get a bunch of food and knives and gear and equipment? Are you going to get a bunch of preparedness stuff and bug out locations? Or are you just going to follow Jesus and have faith and just be completely rely on faith?" And I said, actually, I'm going to follow Jesus. And what he told me to do was to make sure I had gold and silver for economic collapses. What he told me to do was to make sure I had food for my food storage. What he told me to do was to make sure that I had gear and equipment and camping and stoves and skill sets. What I was told as I prayed was to learn the skills necessary that when you do bug out to a location, I have seeds. One of the things you should have in your bug out is seeds, because what if you bug out to a place, then there's all you got is a little bit of land. You can stay there for a season, and then you can plant. You can actually have food that you can grow. So I have seeds. I'm just saying that
seeds. I'm over here thinking seats. I'm like, camp chairs?
Yeah.
Seeds that you plant and grow food. Yes. Okay. I got you.
So when I told him that I was going to do all those things because that's what Christ told me to do, that's when I prayed about it. He was like, "Oh, I get it now." I'm like, yeah, like you have to remember that we have to do our part. God loves us and he wants to do things for us and with us more often than not. He wants to do things with us as we're doing them. I tell my child all the time, I have a 9-year-old, I have 5 kids, but my 9-year-old right now, she's like, "Dad, help me clean my room." And then I'll go in there and I'm cleaning and she's playing. I'm like, wait a minute. You said help you clean your room. That means you're doing it too. And so God wants to help us. He wants to help us, meaning we're doing it too. We're doing our part. We're getting out of the gear. We're getting our food. We're getting our skills. We're getting our mindsets. We're getting our faith. We're doing what we're supposed to do. We're doing our part. Do what you're supposed to do and you'll be blessed.
Awesome. And with that, I think there's nothing better to end this on than that. Do everything with God and you will be much better off. And with that, happy prepping. Stay prepared. If you're not prepared, get prepared. And if you don't know where to start, hop in our groups, join our groups. We are here to help. All the links are in the information below on YouTube, as well as in our podcast. You can check out the Jase Medical $10 off link, the 20% off. This is amazing right now. Our partners over at Fortress Clothing, you can get 20% off by using the word prepper as your coupon code. Click the links below, go to our website, get in touch with us, play the game of preparedness. Make this an everyday thing, part of your life. And just think of, okay, if something were to happen here, how would I get back home? If something were to happen today, how would my family be better off today by something I did today? How will my family be better off tomorrow by something I did last week? Make sure it's part of your always practice and keep it sharp, because if you don't keep it sharp, it'll dull, and nobody needs a dull knife. It's at that point, it's a really, really bad, tiny dirt spade. So stay prepared. See you guys next time.
Awesome. Take care.